There's a sacred moment, an invisible pause in every human journey. It doesn't announce itself with grandeur or trumpet its arrival. No, it's subtle, quiet, and often deeply uncomfortable. It's the moment of isolation before your elevation. Let's talk about that. When everything slows down, when people start falling away, when the noise dies out, when nothing seems to be moving forward, and all that surrounds you is silence, you're not being abandoned. You're being positioned. We often ask, why is nothing happening? But I want to ask you something deeper. What if everything is happening, just not in the dimension you're currently aware of? You see, the conscious mind wants movement. It wants evidence. But the quantum field, the invisible intelligence that governs all things, works in stillness. It reorganizes reality from the inside out. And that means before a blessing enters your life, your internal environment must first match the frequency of that blessing. This is the essence of isolation. It's not punishment, it's preparation. The people that left, the jobs that fell through, the opportunities that ghosted you, they were never your source. They were temporary fixtures. What you're being invited into is a deeper connection to a higher intelligence that knows the path ahead far better than you do. In that isolation, you're being taught how to trust without evidence, to align your thoughts, emotions, and intentions not with your current reality, but with the reality you are becoming. Now, here's where the transformation begins. When you stop resisting the isolation and start embracing it, you shift into creation. You begin to break the habits of survival, fear, doubt, worry, and instead cultivate elevated emotions like gratitude, joy, and expectation. Why is that powerful? Because gratitude is the signal to the universe that the blessing is already here. In this state, you are no longer waiting for a blessing. You are becoming the person who naturally attracts it. The field begins to mirror your internal world. People shift, situations rearrange, synchronicities emerge. You're not stuck, you're being aligned. And the truth is, if you received the blessing too early, you wouldn't be able to hold it. Your nervous system wouldn't be calibrated to it. Your beliefs would sabotage it. Your habits would mismanage it. But in isolation, you're being rebuilt. You're learning to hear your own intuition again. You're learning to stand without the applause. You're learning to stay connected to something higher, even in the silence. And when that happens, when the internal changes first, the external must follow. So if you feel like you've been pulled back, silenced, hidden, separated, don't panic. You're not being overlooked. You're being concealed for calibration, because what's coming next requires a version of you that hasn't existed yet. You are being prepared not just to receive the blessing, but to sustain it, multiply it, and become a living example of what it means to co-create with divine intelligence. So trust the pause, trust the stillness, trust the isolation, because sometimes God hides you to heal you. God silences everything to sharpen your hearing, and God isolates you, not to break you, but to build you for the blessing that's already yours. When life begins to quiet down and people start to fall away, when opportunities dry up and momentum seems lost, it's natural to assume something is going wrong. But in truth, this state of isolation often marks the beginning of something far more intentional. It's not a punishment, it's preparation. There is an unseen intelligence that moves ahead of us, orchestrating events with greater vision than we have. And sometimes that intelligence removes you from the noise to refine you. In this space, you're not being rejected, you're being redefined. The people you once relied on may no longer be aligned with where you're going. The doors that were once open may have closed because they led somewhere you no longer belong. The delay is not a denial. It's a sacred moment of transformation. Isolation removes distraction so that you can finally hear what's going on inside. And more importantly, it clears the path for you to reconnect with the deeper part of yourself that's been drowned out by the demands of the external world. This phase is subtle. It often doesn't come with dramatic signs or instant clarity. Instead, it invites you to sit with the discomfort, to observe your own patterns, and to release the need to control the outcome. In this discomfort, the layers that no longer serve you begin to fall. The habits, the thoughts, the attachments, what doesn't resonate with your next chapter starts to lose its grip. It's here that you begin to shift from reacting to creating. You're learning how to carry the weight of your next blessing without the scaffolding of old support systems. This is preparation at the soul level. An invisible initiation that molds you into the person capable of living in the reality you've been praying for. Stillness is often misunderstood in a world that glorifies constant movement and productivity. We've been conditioned to associate progress with action, noise, and visible results. But real transformation doesn't begin in motion. It begins in stillness. When everything slows down, when plans stall and life gets quiet, something deeper is starting to shift beneath the surface. Stillness isn't stagnation. It's the environment where deep alignment occurs. It's where your inner world begins to recalibrate with the frequency of what you're truly meant to become. In stillness, your awareness expands. You begin to notice things that were previously drowned out by distraction, your thoughts, your patterns, your emotions, your conditioning. You get to witness the difference between who you've been and who you're becoming. The silence that comes with isolation allows for this level of observation. It invites you to no longer run from yourself, but to sit with what's real. In doing so, you start breaking old cycles not through force, but through awareness. This state becomes a fertile ground for transformation because you're no longer operating on autopilot. You become conscious of your energy, of where your focus goes, and how your emotions shape your reality. This is not the time to make things happen. It's the time to tune into the wisdom already available to you, the guidance that's been speaking softly beneath all the noise. The nervous system finds rest here, and in that rest, your perception expands. You move from survival mode into creative mode, from reaction into intention. The old momentum that once drove you may feel absent, but that's because a new internal rhythm is forming, one that's sustainable. One that's aligned, one that doesn't rely on external validation, but on deep inner knowing. Before any true blessing arrives in your life, your inner world must become a match for it. We often focus on the outcome we want, more success, deeper love, greater peace, but we rarely consider the inner transformation required to sustain that outcome. The universe or divine intelligence doesn't simply respond to our desires, it responds to our alignment. That means your thoughts, emotions, and energy must be in harmony with what you're asking for. Otherwise, even if the blessing arrives, it slips through your hands because you're not yet prepared to hold it. This is why the blessing often feels delayed. It's not because it's denied to you, but because it requires a version of you that you're still becoming. You might want abundance, but still carry beliefs of unworthiness. You may crave love, but resist vulnerability. You may seek purpose, but still fear change. The space between the desire and the manifestation is where alignment is formed. And alignment is not just mental, it's emotional, energetic, spiritual. When you start to shift internally, when your nervous system becomes safe enough to receive good things, when your beliefs evolve to support what you say you want, when your actions begin to reflect your future instead of your past, that's when the blessing has a foundation to land on. It's not about perfection, it's about resonance. The blessing you're waiting for already exists on a frequency. The question is, can you meet it there? This process can feel slow, even frustrating, but in reality, it's highly intelligent. It's teaching you to stop chasing outcomes and start becoming the person who naturally attracts them. The transformation isn't happening around you, it's happening through you. Your inner alignment is the invitation for divine timing to unfold. The trust without evidence is to walk by faith, not by sight. It is the deepest form of surrender, one that asks you to believe in an outcome you can't yet see, touch, or explain. This kind of trust is uncomfortable because it defies logic. It's not based on data or predictability. It's based on a knowing that exists beyond the physical senses, a knowing that says something greater is working on your behalf even when all the visible signs say otherwise. When you are in a season of isolation, this level of trust becomes the foundation of your transformation. This is where real inner power is developed. When you can no longer rely on evidence, you start relying on presence. You begin to tune into your inner state, asking yourself what you're choosing to believe in the absence of proof. This is where fear and faith battle for space in your mind. Fear demands evidence. Faith creates it. The ability to hold faith when nothing seems to be moving is not weakness. It's mastery. It is the quiet decision to stay open, to stay aligned, and to stay expectant without needing confirmation from the outside world. In this space, trust becomes an active choice. It's not passive. It's not blind. It's a deliberate recentering every time doubt creeps in. It's the willingness to let go of timelines and control, while still holding a clear vision of where you're headed. Trust without evidence requires you to become emotionally independent from your current circumstances, to stop reacting to what is, and to start embodying what could be. That's when the shift begins, not outside of you, but within you. The external world can't help but respond to that level of certainty, because certainty sends a signal that you already believe it's done. Gratitude is one of the most powerful emotional states you can embody, because it tells the universe that you are already in possession of what you desire. Unlike hope, which waits, or longing, which lacks, gratitude assumes fulfillment. It's not about being thankful only after something happens. It's about expressing appreciation as if it has already occurred. This shift in emotional energy is not just spiritual, it's neurological and physiological. Your brain doesn't know the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you feel gratitude ahead of the blessing, you're rewiring your brain and body to live in the frequency of that future. Gratitude signals readiness. It means you've stopped begging and started believing. It moves you out of survival and into creation, out of resistance and into flow. When you're grateful, you're not in lack. You're not focusing on what's missing. You're focusing on the fullness of what is and the certainty of what's coming. This emotional state creates coherence in your heart and brain, aligning your inner world with the outcome you desire. And from that place of coherence, your decisions, your energy, and your perception shift. You begin to act, think, and respond as if the blessing is already yours. This state of being draws experiences to you that match it, not because of magic, but because you're energetically congruent with the future you envision. You're no longer reaching for it from a place of emptiness. You're magnetizing it from a place of fullness, and the more time you spend in gratitude, the more natural it becomes to embody the reality you're creating. The blessing doesn't just arrive. It arrives into a space that's already been made ready, into a heart that has already welcomed it, into a life that already reflects its presence. Your internal world is the blueprint for your external reality. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every belief you hold creates a vibrational pattern that interacts with the world around you. This isn't just a metaphor, it's physics. Energy attracts like energy. What you consistently hold within begins to mirror itself outside of you through circumstances, relationships, opportunities, and challenges. If your inner world is filled with doubt, fear, or scarcity, those frequencies shape the lens through which you experience life, often attracting more of the same. Transformation begins the moment you realize that change doesn't start with the world around you. It starts with how you perceive and respond to it. When you take responsibility for your internal state, you reclaim your creative power. You stop waiting for conditions to shift before you feel better, and instead you choose to feel better so that the conditions can shift. This is the essence of alignment, choosing elevated emotions before the outcome arrives, not because you're faking it, but because you understand that your inner frequency must match the life you're calling it. As you shift internally, the external world doesn't always respond immediately, but it begins to rearrange itself in alignment with your new energetic state. People start treating you differently. New ideas begin to surface. Unexpected doors start to open, not by coincidence, but because your internal signal has changed. You're no longer tuned into the vibration of your past, you're broadcasting the signal of your future. This is why managing your inner world, your thoughts, your focus, your emotional set point, is not optional if you want lasting change. The reality you see is not random. It's a reflection of what you've been rehearsing, believing, and emotionally investing in over time. The version of you that prayed for the blessing is not the same version that will be able to carry it. Desire alone is not enough to sustain elevation. What's required is internal transformation, an upgrade of your mindset, your habits, your nervous system, and your identity. Many people ask for a breakthrough, but if it came today, it would overwhelm them because they're still operating from the patterns of their past. They haven't yet built the capacity to hold what they're asking for. Blessings carry weight. They come with responsibility, visibility, and often pressure. If your foundation isn't ready, the very thing you called in can become a burden instead of a gift. This is why isolation and preparation are so essential. In the quiet seasons, you're not being denied, you're being developed. The trials, the tests, the stillness, the solitude, they all serve a purpose. They reveal the gaps in your readiness. They show you where you still react from fear, where you still shrink from growth, where you still seek validation. You're being stretched so that you can expand, and that expansion is necessary for the blessing to not just arrive, but to thrive in your life. You're being shaped into the kind of person who doesn't sabotage success when it shows up. Someone who can lead with clarity, love without fear, speak with conviction, and hold the weight of more without crumbling under it. This is an energetic preparation as much as it is emotional and spiritual. The person who receives the blessing must be more grounded, more healed, more present than the person who asked for it. That's not punishment. It's divine intelligence. It's life making sure you don't just encounter the blessing, but that you grow into the version of yourself who can multiply it. Separation often feels like rejection, but in reality, it is one of the highest forms of protection. When certain people exit your life, when doors abruptly close, or when you're removed from environments you once felt attached to, it's not always because something went wrong. Often it's because something deeper is going right. There are connections, habits, and surroundings that are tied to the version of you that no longer aligns with where you're headed. As your inner world shifts, anything that is not in resonance with your new frequency will begin to fall away, not as punishment, but as necessary pruning. We don't always recognize this protection in the moment because it rarely feels comfortable. The mind wants to cling to the familiar, even when it no longer serves our growth. But elevation often requires separation. You cannot rise while carrying the weight of every old relationship, outdated belief, or unaligned situation. What looks like loss is often grace in disguise, grace that clears the space for something more aligned, more expansive, more in tune with your purpose. The challenge is to not chase what's falling away. When something exits your life during a time of transformation, it is often because it has fulfilled its role. Trying to hold on to it can delay your growth. Separation makes room for clarity. It strips away the noise so you can hear your intuition more clearly, so you can see yourself without distortion, and so you can walk your path without unnecessary interference. Sometimes the protection comes in the form of isolation from people who would have distracted you, drained you, or limited you. Sometimes it's a closed door that would have led you off course. Either way, it's not rejection from something good. It's redirection towards something greater. Isolation is often a time for deep reconnection with your own intuition, something that many people overlook in their busy external focused lives. When you're removed from the noise, from the distractions of constant interaction and external demands, you're given the rare opportunity to listen to the inner voice that has been speaking all along. This voice isn't loud. It doesn't compete for attention. It speaks in whispers through feelings, hunches, and quiet nudges, but in the stillness, you can finally hear it clearly. During times of isolation, your intuition has the space to rise to the surface without interference. In this space, you begin to trust your inner guidance more deeply. You stop looking outward for answers and begin to listen inwardly. The distractions that once clouded your judgment, fear, other people's opinions, the constant pull of external success begin to fade, and what remains is a much deeper connection with yourself. You start to realize that everything you need to know, everything you've been seeking, has always been inside of you. The process of becoming more attuned to your intuition during isolation is a profound one. It's not about trying to control or force answers. It's about becoming comfortable in the unknown. You learn to trust what arises within, even if it doesn't make sense at first, because it's a deeper wisdom guiding you toward your true path. This process builds confidence as you begin to see that you can rely on yourself in ways you never thought possible. You no longer need to seek validation externally, because your intuition becomes a trusted compass, guiding you with clarity and certainty, even in moments of uncertainty. This inner connection developed during times of isolation becomes your most reliable tool for navigating life when you're in a period of isolation. It's easy to feel like you're stuck, waiting for something to happen, or that progress has stopped entirely. However, what's really happening is something more subtle and profound. You are being recalibrated. It's as though your energy, your mindset, and your entire way of being are being realigned with a higher version of yourself, The transformation isn't visible yet, but it's happening in the unseen layers of your life. You're not stagnant, you're being prepared for what's next. This recalibration can feel uncomfortable because it requires you to let go of old patterns, ways of thinking, and even the way you interact with the world. It's a shift from your old self to a version of you that is more connected to your purpose, more in tune with your true desires, and more capable of handling the blessings that are on their way. The discomfort that comes with isolation isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's often a sign that you're growing. The version of you that enters the next phase of life will be stronger, clearer, and more aligned with your true potential. The idea of being stuck is simply a perception. In reality, you are in a period of profound internal restructuring. Your mindset is shifting, your beliefs are being reprogrammed, and your emotional energy is finding a new rhythm. The external world hasn't caught up yet, but internally you are already embodying the changes necessary to experience a higher level of success, peace, and fulfillment. This recalibration may take time, but it's an essential part of your growth. The discomfort you feel now is simply the old version of you making space for the new one.